Welcome to 502 Entrepreneurs, Louisville's podcast featuring local business owners, entrepreneurs, and side hustlers, all who have a story to tell. I'm your host, Carl Armijo, owner and operator of Carl Armijo Photography and Louisville Cleaning Pros. Today's guest, Alea Petersen, who has used her skills in communication and strategy to help small and medium-sized businesses with her company, Smarketing Machine. Hey, Alea, thanks for coming to 502 Entrepreneurs Podcast. It's awesome to have you here in the studio.
Awesome to be here, Carl.
Yeah, it's good. I wanted to chat with you because I know you've got your own marketing company. And you've got a creative name for it. You call it Smarketing
Machine, yes.
Yeah, Smarketing Machine, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is smart marketing.
It's that. I often say it's both two things because I think HubSpot or some other, well-known marketing companies coined the phrase smarketing to mean how sales and marketing should work hand in hand to grow a business. But I also say it's smart marketing. Yeah, that one's fun.
So that's great. So I know you've been doing that for 4 or 5 years now, right?
Round 4, yeah.
Around 4 years. And so what brought you to start this marketing machine and get that going? How'd you get interested in that and what moved you that way?
Yeah, so I did work at a local agency, marketing agency, where pretty much like businesses would fully outsource their marketing to us. So I always say I cut my teeth there. I have a communication degree, but I cut my teeth real world every day, helping businesses grow just by jumping in. Even though I had the mind for it, a lot of my dabbling in digital marketing like SEO or social media management and all those things didn't come until I was on the job there. And I did that for 5 years and I was in leadership there too. Really great Louisville company. You should maybe have them on too.
Yeah, we might.
No competition with them. I love them. But during that time, a few different reasons, but I also realized I wanted to be a little bit more than a generalist, although I like to say the nice word for it is I'm kind of a Swiss Army knife. I can do a lot of different things.
You got a lot of tools.
Yes, in marketing and to help people, but I wanted to really hone in on here's what I love to offer people. Here's what I love to do on a pretty much daily basis. Here's the type of businesses. And I knew I wanted that freedom. But honestly, Carl, one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to be my own boss, because I still love working with teams and for companies, but was what a lot of people around the time I started were thinking the same thing is I want some more time freedom. I want some more location freedom. For my family. At that time, my father was sick and I was having to spend a lot of time with him, and the agency was very understanding. But I was I want to build a structure, which means you have to have a system. Even when you're your own boss, you have to build it right to give you some freedom. I'm still working on that, but that's why I started.
I mean, I think a lot of people that sit where you're sitting now say the same thing, right? Started my own business, my own, side hustle, whatever it is, because I want more time and freedom at some point in my life. Some want it now, and some, are trying to plan it for the future.
Yeah.
But I think it always comes back to the same thing. It's having the right systems, like you said. Everybody says the same thing. If you have a system, then that freedom can be there.
Yeah.
If not, then you're almost just drowning sometimes and trying to breathe for air. So
no matter what role or type of business you're in, yes, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to go back to your experience in the other company. With that, I know you said it helped prepare you for what you're doing now. Do you feel like that's a path that a lot of people in your position have taken, where they've gone to work for another marketing agency, kind of learned the trade there, and then have kind of move on and spun off their own thing? And is that a path that you would recommend people take?
Yeah, well, I would say it could probably be 50-50 as far as how many people do it, because I think that it kind of depends on what you love to do. If you really love working with clients and are a very, very specific specialization that you want to go all in on storytelling and content, then you can absolutely do it on your own. And so you learn usually on the job, but then you want to be able to well, I think actually it comes down to if you really want to build something. And so I don't know that everybody does it. Some people do reverse, where they freelance a while and then they're able to hop onto a team, because I think you don't have to have specialized certification or degree for a lot of those things when it comes to, a web developer or a videographer, photographer like yourself. You could do it on your own, and then you're I'm ready to join a large team. The creativity that can happen on a full team is really fun because you build off each other. So some people do reverse, But I would recommend to certain personality types that if you really want to build something and become like a subject matter expert, then that's probably because at some point you're ready to like forge your own path.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. I never thought about like the reverse of that scenario of, you know, somebody, you know, joining the team, but I could see it like, you know, having your own business, having your own, you know, freelancing, finding your own work, all that stuff isn't for everybody. It's like super challenging. It could be very frustrating. It could be like, you know, all the things. And, you know, I could see, you know, somebody, you know, thinking that they might want to do that, get into it, realizing, maybe I'm not really great at sales. I'm really great at delivering this product. Maybe I'll just pop right back into that.
Or they just love the art of it,
Right.
but not the business. They're ready for someone to run the business while they do their skill or their passion.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't even think about that.
I don't know if you've been hearing like the social chatter. I think it's starting to get louder this year of people saying, yeah, for a few years, everybody was like, be your own boss. And they're like, there's something to a 9 to 5 where you leave it at after you head home, you leave it there. And I'm hearing a few people kind of going back into working for a larger company,
right,
and not trying to do their own thing. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
like,
I see some of that online. I see, you know, the do your own thing. You don't have to answer to anybody. I see the, you know, the boring business thing, or even the side hustle thing.
Yeah.
You know, all those things are still kind of there, and they're prominent. I think it's where you're looking. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see a lot of people nowadays just say, hey, I'm going to work 9 to 5. I'm not going to answer this phone after 5 o'clock. You know, you don't own me, kind of thing, you know, and definitely do that. I could definitely see that.
Yeah. But you're exactly right though, that for a long time, but I truly point to like the pandemic and post-pandemic world is the idea of people not just questioning, what do I really want to do? You know, but I want to do my own thing. Like I want to build something myself that fits my life, fits my passions, all of that. I'm still hearing that and I'm still preaching that. Honestly, my favorite people to work with are often like a solo entrepreneur just now launching. I love doing that. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the reason I got into what I do, you know, as in the real estate photography world is like, you know, I always tell people it was like the perfect storm, right? It was like COVID. Kids were home from school. We just started fostering our son. So like all of a sudden I've got like this new thing that requires a bunch of extra time. You know, I needed flexibility with work. The job I had wasn't flexible, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, the perfect kind of storm of things like came together, and all of a sudden I'm doing real estate photography and I'm quitting that job. We're adopting a kid, and like, you know, now it's like all, you know, come together, you know, 5 years later, you know, but like,
adoption
you know,
alone.
Yeah. But like, you know, it was like a huge step to go from, you know, W-2 9 to 5 to, hey, I'm going to, you know, start my own photography thing and, you know, really focus on real estate photography and do this thing full time. But, you know, it worked out perfect for me with the time, the flexibility, and things like that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But I'm glad for you, for sure, because it takes all of the right things coming together and just, you know, pure grit as well. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So what's the best part right now for you, you know, with the company you have and what you're doing? And, you know, I know you like helping people and collaborating and being creative, but, you know, what's the best part of what you're doing now?
Let's see. I would say there's probably two answers. The first and foremost, just like maybe 6 months ago or so, someone I was helping them launch kind of a simple website, although I'm not a web developer, FYI. I can help you there, but you know, there's a limitation. But I was a simple website, but mostly I was helping them brand and plan a launch plan for opening up their own practice. And so even though it's not exactly my specialty, I was even helping them think through integrating their tools. Like they're in that world, it's not exactly a CRM, you know, but practice management tool with their website, with their, you know, some of the public profiles they had, all the things, because it was this one was a family friend. But he said to me at the end of it, he was like, he's 60 years old, but he said, I feel like I've been made to do this. Like, I feel like I'm made for this, and I'm just now launching. I'm just now having like the bravery to take the chance, start my own practice, do all this. And at like 60,
Wow.
And he was like, but I feel like I've been made for this all along. And he was obviously admitting some of the fears, but he was like, thank you for helping me make it a reality. Because I was part of like, he can have all this idea all he wants, but he needed all these pieces to fully launch it, to take in patients, to do all the things, to brand himself, give himself a name, a website, a URL, you know. Yeah. And when he said like, thank you for helping making it real, because I feel like I've been made for this, but I've been living decades of my professional life not doing it. And I was like, wow. Yeah, it's like, and that's why I think the launch, the launch phase for certain businesses is so exciting for me. And you probably have heard the term a ton, especially anybody in the digital world has heard it, but there's different definitions of the word funnel. But the idea of like helping someone that may not feel like they know what to do, or even if they are savvy, but they're small enough, they're like, how can I get in front of people and, you know, attract a client and, you know, show how I'm different. How can I do that if I'm not like Apple, like the size of a big company, you know, can I take up space online? Can I actually get my message out? Can I win people over? And so that's probably a more poetic way of saying it, but that's at the core of like why I'm passionate about helping small businesses with what I can offer them in the marketing to sales realm. But what's worked the best for my business this year, and I don't know if it's a mix of the AI and all this type of stuff, but I am enjoying like owning the title, being like a fractional marketing manager for like a smaller but even medium-sized companies that would like to still have, even if there's plenty of tools that can do a lot of the tasks, they want that manager oversight, that manager expert, like still consulting them and doing the work. And even if we're using tools, I believe that, just as a note to everyone with AI, there's always going to need to be people that are wielding that power, overseeing it, like managing it, you know, the oversight and stuff. And so that's been kind of cool. Is like getting to be, I've just started saying that more, that I'm like a fractional marketing manager for a couple different companies,
I like
you know?
that. You know, when I had Ashley Chamberlain in here, she's talked about the fractional CFO work she does. I didn't know what that meant. So she explained that to me. So when you were just throw out, you know, that you're doing the fractional marketing manager thing, like I was able to like put it together right away in my head. So that's good.
It's
learning
kind of
things, right? You know,
become more buzz the last couple of years too. Buzzword, I think. But
that's cool. So like a company who does want somebody to do that position and manage some of that stuff for them. You know, are you creating all the content for them, or are they having staff who kind of creates and does the things, and you're managing kind of what they're putting together and what's going out? That kind of thing.
Kind of from the way it's a little mix of both. The way I do it, though, I don't think it would be just like a lot of the people out there. They're coming in to sit maybe at the leadership level and oversight and have the trusted ear of maybe the leadership team. But I do that, but I still have my hands in like the daily and weekly work. But they may have a person on their team. Like one example they have someone who helps them with web development, host their website, all of that. But having an ongoing marketing plan or content plan of how they're visible online. They are really growing on Facebook. They wanted to this was a nonprofit. They want to stay in touch with their donors and volunteers and have very specific email campaigns at different times that truly, if not done well, will make or break their fundraising. And so I'm doing all that. We are using some tools, some AI, some templates, things like that to help with it. But I'm creating and I'm overseeing and part like consulting with them, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's cool. What kind of what are your favorite tools that you're using, you know, these days? I know over the past 4 years they've probably changed quite a bit from what you started with using to what you're using now. So which ones are your favorites?
For me, still is for the last couple of years is Canva Pro. Like they every week I feel like more improvements in their automation, their AI features for like design, for even copy, for anything they can do, like narration. But you can create landing pages on it, but I obviously use it very much for video and social content, graphics, all the things, you know. So
it's cheap too. It's like what, $15 a month or something like that?
Yes. I probably use it the most. That's why I'm giving it the first shout out. But even ChatGPT, like the free version and paid, I have little, you know, agents trained up for every one of my retainer clients, every one of them that I'm like the fractional role for them. I'm using that tool to support whatever strategies and whatever like copywriting, messaging stuff that we're doing.
Right.
But I love writing, so I still never want to give that completely over to them. I would use something like ChatGPT for either the starting point to get the ideas going, or like the editor optimizer at the end of my idea.
Right.
You know, so yeah. But I mean, like Cast Magic is for like podcasts and video. It produces all the like the blurbs, makes it so easy to just. I'm a huge believer in recycling or upcycling, that if you have one really cool piece or story or video, find like 10,000 ways to use it.
Right.
And that I do like you'd mentioned to me before, you use some tools like that.
Some similar stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially for this podcast, you know, just to create clips and, you know, get it out there. Because we have such great conversations in here. They're an hour.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people nowadays are scrolling on the reels, the shorts and stuff. You know, they want 20 seconds of our podcast. And so, you know, we're trying to give them that 20 seconds and provide them something valuable in that time by, you know, with shorts and reels and stuff like that.
Yeah. Those things are always changing too, of what's trending, algorithm,
sure.
what works well. Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. I mean, I use Canva Pro in my business. You know, I think it's, like you said, it's just unbelievably powerful for the price. And you don't have to learn, you know, a design program, you know, learn vector graphics and all this other stuff to create, you know, content that's going to be seen, you know, for a short amount of time on social media.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's perfect for stuff like that. ChatGPT is awesome. You know, I love creating little agents in there too. I think that's, you know, I don't feel like I was able to understand like how important ChatGPT was, or like how it could be used in my business until I learned how to do that. And then you train it, you know, you upload documents and you do all this stuff and tell it what it can and what it can't say. And you know, then it's like, you know, really powerful tool for your business and your communication and sounding like you, and, you know, come up with ideas that kind of align with your brand. So it's like, if people don't know how to do that, you know, figure it out, get on YouTube and learn how to do that, because it's really powerful.
I'm a big fan of bootstrapping, and that's one reason I probably wouldn't even recommend or say a ton of different tools I use. I can dabble and try a lot of them, and I think a good CRM, of course, is very, especially if it has it's integrated to be like a marketing automation email with it too. Like a good all-in-one tool is great, and I use Go High Level. I'll go ahead and say that too. That's one that I use. But I'm such a believer in like bootstrapping and putting your heart into it too, and just like figuring it out and not thinking you have to have like 50 tools to get it all done. I'm just not. I'm kind of a timeless believer, and you know that the timeless efforts is what I believe in.
Yeah, nowadays so many platforms do so many things. You don't need as many tools, because do multiple things. So what's I've never used Go High Level. I've heard good things about it though. What does it do really well? Like, what do you like about it so much?
The funnel concept, that you could very quickly spin up a really great sales page or landing page and connect it to like upsell offers, and use it as very much lead funneling and nurturing. And then it can connect to automated email sequences that are highly smart and custom and segmented and all of that. So, but you can build a full-fledged website on this particular tool, and some of the similar ones. You can schedule your social media content on it. So it truly tries to be the all-in-one. Yes. I think limited analytics a little bit, but yeah, almost all the other categories, I feel like you could do it all inside one thing. That's amazing.
Okay. So have to check it out.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Well, that's very cool. So I left my notes in the other room, but I know, you know, you're like working with, you know, the small, medium businesses. You're doing this fractional stuff, you know, creating, you know, marketing manager kind of thing. But you know, the Smarketing Machine isn't the only thing that you got going on, right? So you're kind of like a busy person like me. You got multiple things kind of going on.
Multi-passionate person.
Multiple irons in the fire. So like, you know, we got Smarketing Machine. What else? What else is Alea working on?
Yeah, I'm happy you asked, because I think I am a dreamer and doer at the same time. I'm very proud of saying I am kind of both. I don't just sit in one side of the head of a brain where I'm like just dreaming about ideas. Like, I'm also often taking action, trying things out. I think entrepreneur is the good word for it. And that's what you are too, that I'm going to try different things. I'm going to have multiple business ideas. I'm going to invest in different ones and not be afraid to fail. I think that's something I kind of have in my head. But so my husband is in real estate, but we have a small remodeling company kind of on the side that we're doing. I've done different little side gigs, even like making things on Etsy to try to have a little passive income,
Sure.
especially art and even like marketing template stuff. Like I have a little bit of that.
Like that kind of stuff.
I have a little of that on my website too. A few little, that's still within Smarketing Machine, but I have some templates and trainings and things that just, for some small passive income.
Yeah.
But, the two biggest things is, one, I've always loved writing. For a few years, I've been trying to call myself a writer, and I'm very committed to completing a book. So I'm about 50% through a book, and I'm going to try to get it done this year. So
that's good.
And so, I think with this main one, I'm going to try traditional publishing. I'm going to try to find an agent, all of that. But I have a few other smaller books and even like Christian devotionals that I've written, and I may self-publish with the world we live in of Etsy and Amazon, direct publishing. Like you can do so much on your own.
Absolutely.
So and to me, my husband and I have thought a lot about passive income the last couple of years. It goes big hand in hand with what we were saying about freedom and stuff like that. But, and I don't know if there's truly passive income. It's probably semi-passive, but a book or a few well-done books are a good example of that, where you can continue to make sales on them for a long time and then even build a platform or community around that. Around book, and around yourself as an author. So that's one of them. But my husband and I are also having our eyes on the boring businesses, like you were just saying, that especially with the shift in the world, in the market, housing market, and AI is certainly going to impact my field more than a lot of others. And so we're looking into like investing. Obviously, real estate, like investing in real estate is a big goal, but even boring businesses, like a storage unit. Like we often think about that. We're like, what is recession proof and pandemic proof and AI proof? And we don't have all those decisions made yet, but like we're trying to learn and brainstorm pretty regularly about that stuff. So that's kind of what
I mean, I see a lot of people doing storage units, laundromats, RV parks, just other things like that. That just seems like there's always going to be some sort of demand for it, right? That kind of stuff. Yeah. So, but we both like following our heart. So we may end up just always going after like the things that we want to put our time into, when those kind of businesses are often like not about time. It's just about setting up a really great, reliable business, like a laundromat, like you said. But there's something to that. I mean, even if it's boring, is like just investing in that. I don't think there's anything boring about building and growing a business.
No matter what it is.
No matter what it is, because it's always a challenge. There's always obstacles to overcome. I mean, it's the laundromat, right? You think you just watch them spin around, but those machines are going to break. Are you going to have to have somebody in there? Watching the plays. You have to have a desk person. It's going to be completely remote. Can you do like a subscription laundry service? There's like tons of like different.
I know your head goes there too. Your head's always like, spinning with all your other businesses.
I don't think there's any like, boring businesses if you're involved in it. But I get the whole idea of like the passive income, because I think that makes sense. I think about that all the time too. Things like that. I think the book idea, going back to your book idea, is like super powerful way to grow an audience.
Yes.
Because I don't know if your book is going to be fiction or nonfiction or what your...
The one I was talking traditional publishing is fiction.
Fiction, okay. Yeah, so like even, I see fiction authors doing it, but you see nonfiction authors doing it way more often.
Yes,
They're becoming a subject matter expert.
I was just about to say that.
They're building a following, and then all of a sudden they're selling to the people who've already read their book. And doing that.
Yeah, they can set up themselves up as a speaker at that point, or building a special private community around them, their subject, and
exactly.
Yeah,
and I've always thought about that too, but I'm not ready for that kind of involvement in in things. So
and I feel like that kind of platform is so close to even like the influencer, because you could even be called that.
It really is.
I think we had a few years of everybody wanting to be that too, and it's kind of gotten dogged, that idea. But and I think the shallow view of that for sure is like we shouldn't just pursue that because of how easy it seems to make money or to have like fans. That it's not for that reason. But I also am And on the other hand, I'm like, if you have something you've put in your 10,000 hours, you're good at it, or you just really love it and you want to build a platform around it and like whatever, even if, I mean, authority on the topic is important, but even if it's just like you have a unique spin or a mindset or perspective on something and you build like this community around it, why not do it? Like, I do think, as crazy as the online world is, that it's an exciting time to be alive, because you could do anything you really want to do and potentially build a world, build income around it. You could. Not everything has to be monetized, but you could. Like, I truly say that to people all the time and think, like, I'm so glad I'm alive now in this opportunity world, if that makes sense.
No, I absolutely.
It comes with its troubles too, but
it does. But like, I think that makes perfect sense too. I agree. Like, it's just like so many opportunities. It's really, how can you focus on the things that are going to matter the most to you? And, you know, like, especially when it comes to monetization, right? You can only put so much effort into so many things because there's only so much time in the day, especially if you're small like me or you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, if you had unlimited money, then you could just like
hire it
do
out
all kinds of things and hire it out here and there and that kind of stuff and grow that way. So have you guys, you haven't actually invested in any boring businesses yet? You're just kind of in the process of thinking it and figuring it out and deciding which direction you want to go?
Yes, this is also another versus conversation. We've been more looking into like investing in the market, you know, like more the last year, but I would like to, I don't know if it's just the excitement of, again, building your own thing that I'm like, let's look at an actual boring business. Like we have not made a decision.
I think it's the excitement. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason I've started my cleaning company is right. You know, I'm doing perfectly fine with my photography company. And I'm happy with where it's at. And I think I like the size it is, and I don't think I want it to grow too much right now. But you know, is there another way I can bring income into the house where I'm not 100% involved all day, every day, like I am with photography, kind of thing. And I thought cleaning might be a good fit there because, you know, I can answer the phone. I can, you know, put in orders in the computer. You know, I can, you know, talk to customers and, you know, do that kind of stuff. I don't have to go clean the house, right? I've got people who go do that, which is nice. So I don't have to like fulfill the product. I just got to, you know, make the arrangements for that to happen. And then cleaning has, you know, monthly recurring revenue, which my photography business does not have. So, you know, that's another thing that's, you know, great about that, you know, storage units, you know, laundromats, you know, things like that, you know, that money, you know, it's going to come in because it's a recurring monthly, you know, so that's kind of the reason I went down that direction as well, you know, and, you know, I'm not going to sell Carl Armijo photography to anybody, most likely, right? It's not a sellable
your name,
right?
You know, sell over my name.
It's not a sellable business, you know, at this point in time, you know, the way it is, but a cleaning business that has, you know, X amount of monthly recurring revenue could be down the line, right? And, you know, I could sell that down the line and, you know, right off into the sunset or something, you know, you never know, but.
That's important, I think, as an entrepreneur, is to have some opportunities that it's not just trading time or whatever for money. I guess that is a big part of what I'm saying. But even when I reference my dad and like sickness or your kids needing you or whatever, that's the weirdest thing about working for a business that like a team or a corporate company is, I mean, ideally they wouldn't fire you right away, but like they could replace you in a second if you're not producing. And it's this idea of like, I want something that can support me, not that it demands of me to get support. You know, it's just this weird concept. It makes sense that a company, you have to fulfill your duty, but it's also like one tragedy could like wreck like your income, you know, and especially in that kind of job where like long enough of not fulfilling your work, they kind of have to replace you. And so that's always kind of sat in my head a lot the last few years, just with our own family stuff. And, but in the same, I keep saying these, like, on the other hand, I also know that like what we're doing, I would not want to completely have all passive. I don't think ever, because what we do with like our brains and our hands it should be fulfilling. Like, I just think we would be really, if AI took over everything, you know, we would just be just depressed or bored or whatever. So that's one thing that comes to my husband and my mind a lot is like, what do we love? What do we enjoy doing? Where even though I want to think about the boring businesses, I'm like, I know it's important what we do.
Yeah, no, it is. I think I say this to my parents all the time, right? It's like, you guys need to keep moving, keep doing something, because they're retired. And I'm of the opinion that if you retire, you don't do anything, then you're going to die real fast.
I think it's true.
And so I think that's kind of how our minds work. And our, we could have passive income all we want, but if you're not doing something, to keep your brain moving, keep your body moving, stay active, then you're just kind of like dying on the vine almost, and, that can happen to you at 40 years old. It can happen to you, at 65 when you retire. You gotta, just keep things moving. I think you're exactly right. There's always got to be some sort of active income, coming in, because that's like what keeps you going throughout the day.
Because obviously you could replace that with hobbies, and that's still helpful because it keeps you active. But I think most personality types are still wired to like, I want to feel like I'm making an impact. Like I have a reason to be here on this earth. Yeah. And so like what we're doing with our thoughts and with our hands has to somewhat connect to like work, even if there's not a lot of money involved. Right. It's like, it's something. So,
I mean, that's why we see a lot of like retirees, I think, like go to Home Depot and become a greeter, right?
Exactly.
It's because they're doing something active. I don't think it's always for the money. I think it's just for the socialization. I feel like you're, having some
productive
kind of,
too.
Some kind of thing to do, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's on our mind a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you guys have any ideas on like how quick you want to move into that kind of thing? Or are you going to just wait for the right opportunity kind of thing and see what pops up? Or?
It's some of it's opportunity. Some of it's like, forecasting and planning and all that stuff, because our biggest, tip to people out here, our biggest milestone we were working on the last 2 years was to pay off almost all our debt, so that then we're even in a better place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that we would be against the right type of debt for a business.
Sure.
We're much more in favor of that than personal debt, but that was a big thing. So like getting things in line so that you can feel like you could take that risk. Yeah. That's been what we've been focusing on. But I think, opportunity too.
That's fantastic. I know there's like tons of different ways to view like your debt and your mortgage and, things like that. But like my wife and I have always had we've been aligned on it the entire time that we've known each other. Like having zero debt is way better than having any debt. And so we've actually had all of our debt paid off for the past 4 or 5 years now as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so
that's awesome.
We did it for a couple reasons. The biggest one is like, I think it's like always an anxiety when you know that you owe somebody something. So, then you can kind of get that off of your brain and things like that. But, you never know when our economy is going to kind of dip into a recession. And so I wanted us to be, as a family, almost recession proof, right? So if I don't have a mortgage, I don't have a car payment, those are the two big ones. And a lot of people our age have tons of credit card debt, right? So if you don't have credit card debt either, say the economy goes bad, I can't pick up any work, and my wife loses her job, but now we've got our cars paid off, our house paid off. All we really have to pay is insurance. And I can go earn insurance money by working at McDonald's or, anywhere, right? The gas station or whatever the lowest paying job, job out there is. I can go make that money to pay my house insurance and my car insurance. And we can still keep the lights on at the house, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes. It's great to have a plan. I don't know if it's like a bad sign that we think this way, that we're like, what if everything crashes?
Right.
But I also think it's like, you have to, like, it's very good to always be having these reinforcements and systems and
and my money, that we use to like pay off the house, like could it have made more money like in the stock market now? Probably.
Right.
But I think the peace of mind that I have is worth way more than that extra money that we would have got in the stock market over the last few years versus or over the next 20 years as my mortgage or whatever.
That's kind of how we think too.
And then just like the interest rates are crazy. So when you look at what you paid for your house and how much you actually end up paying at the end of the day, it's like, we're just going to pay this off now and not pay all that extra money. And it's worked out great for us so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's my husband's mindset has been that way a lot more the last couple of years. And he's a realtor. So he's pointing people to mortgage lenders all the time. But yeah. So, yeah.
How's what's it like being married to a realtor? So like I work with realtors all the time,
sure,
right, in my real estate photography. Yeah. So I know a lot of them. I kind of see them on the work side of things. But like, what's it like with a realtor at home? I imagine it's a nonstop phone game.
Yeah, I mean, different years can feel, or different times of the year can feel so different too, just of how the market can be, or the interest of not interest rate, interest of people. If it's around the holidays or stuff, that it can change so much. So I think he's made for it. Like his wiring of being great with people, very detail oriented. His background of learning about or being able to work on homes means that when he's taking, especially if they're a first time home buyer, he knows how to notice and warn you of the things that could truly be bad for you in that home. And like, he's very much about like never pushing you to just say yes because it's going to give him commission.
Right.
But like, this house needs to be right for you. Let's check the crawl space. Like, he's very good at that. And, but he's also thinking a lot about what does he want his latter years of life to be now that we're approaching middle age, it feels like, but like, he will probably always keep his license, but he's thinking even more than me about like all these things, recession proof, future proof. What am I really passionate about? If I want to leave a mark on the world, it might not be real estate. Like that's where he's sitting, but he's very good at, but I would say that the craziest thing for the last couple of years is when I took the plunge to do my own thing. At that point, both of us were truly our own bosses. No promised income, which I guess even a company can fire you in a day, but no promised income for either of us. And I mean the weight of that, and there's been times we've felt it pretty hard, like the weight of it, but the risk of it, a lot of people would never do that, I think. And I'm like, I've thought of that. I'm like, we are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know that. That's I mean, I'm not in that situation. Where my wife is very happy as a W-2 employee.
Yes.
And, working her job and like running a business is definitely not anything that she has any ambition to do or want to do. So I got, lucky, I guess, where I was able to take the plunge and jump and, knowing that she was perfectly happy doing what she was doing. So, we did have, one income that's
helpful.
That's there. So like, that's a big weight. That's not on your shoulders, but you still feel the pressure to contribute to the household and, pull your weight, especially as a husband and things like that as well. So,
oh yeah. If my husband was here, he'd be resonating with you because the pressures you can feel, man. I mean, probably every role, but especially as an entrepreneur. Yeah,
absolutely. So, what's one big mistake you see entrepreneurs or people who are, moving from maybe a traditional W-2 job into something on their own, or maybe like starting a side hustle, working their W-2, what is like, and then, hoping to move it over to full-time later. Like, what are some mistakes or things that you see, people doing that maybe, if you could talk them out of it, you would?
Yeah. Okay. I would think, especially if they're trying to build the side thing, but to leave their current job to go full time. If that's sort of the phase they're in, I would say that they try to maybe do, even from my seat with marketing and sales, I think they try to do too many things instead of the main things that have to be done to truly sell what you're trying to sell your offer, but in similar way about doing all the things, I still also think they try, at least I can say this about myself and some of the solo entrepreneurs I've coached, is like in your mind, you still, I almost think it's residual from their old job, their job they're going to leave. It's like, you still feel like you have to do things the way other businesses are doing them.
Yeah.
And, or that you have to do a lot of different things just to make money. And there is probably a short phase of that where you say yes to different things, to say yes to any sale, especially if it's a service or consulting or something like that. But they try to be all the things, or they try to do the model just like the business they are leaving from or something like that. and it's to their detriment. Like I just think they really have to devote a ton of time to internally. I know their time is limited if they're balancing the different jobs, but like to clarifying their just in order to make money is for whatever you're offering, especially if you're going solo for a specialized thing you're trying to offer, is just you have to be so clear on this is who I'm wanting to work with. This is how I can like change their life. This is my solution. This is the process. It's like problem, process, solution type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of people don't nail. I didn't. I was like, I'm going to help people with different marketing because I came from an agency.
Right.
It was just like such a
agencies can be real broad.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think that I did not get clear on that. And that truly, if you see people who sell really well through social media or email marketing, they are nailing that of like so clear, like what this person's going to get from me. And it's enticing, like that's that wealth, health, and relationships. Like which category are you offering them, and make that so clear that and compelling that they can hardly say no. And so I just think a lot of people don't nail that, but they simultaneously think they have to spend a lot of money on like a big custom website and even a nice logo. And I would say to someone in that phase, you don't even need all of that.
Right.
You've got to nail this one thing, and you also have to do it your way. Because when you try to do it like these other businesses are doing it, it's not going to work. It is not going to work. You have to kind of follow like your compass. You have to establish your plan, your systems. The system part, I would definitely go back to real hard, like we started with, of like, you're not going to survive it, or it's definitely not going to be a healthy business if you aren't clear on those systems. I don't even think you have to, devote all this time to doing all of this, but you have to get the main things right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think becoming extremely clear on your offer.
Yeah. Yes.
Is super important. And I think that's
and your method, like how you're running your business. Get clear on that, you know?
Get that stuff. I think that's something a lot of people struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, systems are just so important in having a system and documenting them and just like, keeping track of them. It's so easy nowadays too with AI. I mean, you can almost just do a screen recording and then upload it, and then it'll tell you what you did and like write it down for you and stuff like that. And like, it's not even hard to document your systems anymore to create them, but it does take time to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And things like that. But
yeah. And this is kind of a mental practice, but it's even like practical, and the actual, work they're doing, the offer they're trying to offer people is just remember that you can't be all things to all people, and what you're offering is not for everyone.
Right.
The faster we can kind of like own that, we're going to probably grow faster. Like being so clear, I'm not for everyone. What I'm offering, I'm not even meaning just niche down. That's kind of part of it. Do you say niche or niche?
I say niche.
I say niche too. Thank you. It's easier. It's a niche. It's like too flowy. But you're not for everyone. And I think that even kind of helps with the imposter syndrome, because I would say for any human, that's one of the biggest obstacles is like the imposter syndrome thing. But when you get clear on like, this is who I am, this is what I'm offering, this is what I can do, and this is who it's for, and not everyone, and then you're less worried about how people perceive you on social media, and you can just put yourself out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always think like the hardest part for me was like hearing no's. And then once I got used to hearing no, then it didn't bother me anymore. And then it was just like, oh, they don't want to work with me. I don't care. There's somebody out there who does. And so like, I think that's the hardest. That was one of the hardest parts for me to kind of grasp is like, I'm not for everybody. My work's not for everybody.
Yeah.
That's fine, because, it is for some people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm a people pleaser from childhood, so it's hard for me too, but I've had to own that a lot more as a business owner. So.
Okay, cool. How long have you been in Louisville?
Since 2006.
2006.
Yeah. End of 2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you beat me by like 10 years. But like I got here full time in 2016.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that you and your
It's almost
husband,
20 years for me. Wow. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
what are some of the things that you and your husband, like about living here? How do you find the business climate, like the recreational climate, like, what do you guys like doing? That kind of stuff.
I love Louisville because I grew up in a small town. I guess that could make some people not like it, but it to me keeps me close to home or, good hiking in a forest or a farm. I can still get to it quickly and easily, but all the culture when it comes to, like, I love live music. I love good food. I love, definitely supporting local businesses. And I think that's thriving here, and so I love the access to all the different things, good concerts, stuff like that. But then I would say that the entrepreneur community for me, even though I'm a digital girl, so I have to push myself to get out there because I'm just behind a computer a lot. Right. I'm home, I'm virtual. I can work from a couch or a beach, which I love. Yeah. But I have to still force myself to get out and to just mingle. And if I'm supporting their business, I'm all for it. If it's a launch of a new business and I'm going to go celebrate, or they'd like me to help consult with the marketing, like, I'm showing up, man. But it's hard sometimes for me to just meet a bunch of new people. I think I'm out of practice at that. And a little more introverted. Maybe that's why I like to be a writer. But every time that I've been around other business owners, the Southern hospitality that Louisville still has, even though we're right on the line of the South, I think that shines through. Where people still are just cordial and they want to hear your story, and I think that we support each other. I don't see like cutthroat competition like you might see in a big city.
Yeah.
But
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, almost all the business owners or people who are trying to start something here or have a side hustle that I've met in Louisville are like super nice people. They're always willing to help out. They want to hear from you. I don't see a lot of that other kind of hateful or competition
not so
kind
much
of
me.
thing. That kind of stuff. And maybe that happens in like some of the corporate world, but I don't want to live there. So
that's not where we are. For a reason. But I would say for fun, like, we love nature. So the Parklands is such a jewel for this city now that it's been like completed the way it has. Maybe they're still doing a little more, but I'm in one part of that, one part or another every week. Okay. We live really close to one access area of it. And so I'll kayak, I'll hike, I'll bike, I'll just walk and hang out. Bernheim, like, that's probably our favorite hobbies in Louisville. Because we graduated, both of us, from U of L, but we don't intensely like following like sports or live or whatever.
Like football games and
games. That would be the only way I would like stay on top of it, is going to a live game has that energy. It's fun, but we're just not going to follow the way that people do throughout the season. And but I would say that nature, and then second to that, like the arts. Like, I would like even pro bono to get more involved in the arts community and support it, offer my services. Like, I don't know, that I really would like to be more in that world as a creative. And I've done a little bit, and like I said, the music, we usually get some good music here, so that's probably, I want to do more of it, but I haven't.
What venue do you like the best for music?
I mean, I think the Palace is beautiful. If you can see any really show there, yes. Even if it was like comedy.
We saw Ron White there. It was awesome.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it's been a while since I've even been to more. I've done more outdoor stuff recently. You know what I mean? Like, people just having really small things. So a lot of the others, like small rock ones, I haven't even been to in a while. Zanzibar. I've been to a few concerts there. Yeah, it's always really crowded.
Older too.
Yeah, that's true. Well, like I said, I'm at home, and I work from home so much that I've thought about how could I even I've thought about doing the hybrid co-working spaces. I've thought about opening a co-working space on my end of town, because I would enjoy it and I could, make money from it. But I would enjoy working from there is what I mean. Sure. So should I start a business like that just for myself to have an office?
Yeah, I would.
So that's but I am home so much because our house that we moved to a couple years ago is on an acre. We live next to a ton of horses. We don't own them ourselves. Okay. So, which is great because I wouldn't want to take care of that, but we can see horses and such a serene environment that I don't often feel a reason to leave my house because I can work even on my patio and I have a hot tub. And,
That sounds perfect.
Eventually, if I get a sauna, I'm like, I'll never have to leave.
Never going anywhere.
Because I work out and go to a sauna elsewhere. But I have to find reasons because I love Louisville. I love culture. I cry when I see parades.
Oh, yeah.
That is something really weird about me. I may have shared that in BNI once, but I cry at parades when I see the businesses, like local businesses, just when I'm like, that's kind of silly that you're just in a car holding your sign, but it's like, you're just trying to be a part of the community and get your name out. And then the marching band. Yeah. And I'm like, these high schoolers are getting to like, especially at Macy's Day Parade, like they went all the way to New York. Yeah. So I love local culture, but I'm not getting out enough. So I don't know. Maybe just invite me. Invite me to something soon that you're doing, Carl.
Yeah,
please.
We will. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And other people will have to invite you as well. So tell people where they can find you and like, if they want to work with you, invite you somewhere, if they're a nonprofit in the arts that needs some help or something, where can they find you?
I would say I have the most fun probably on Instagram and been as active the last few weeks, but I have plans for even better content getting out there. So I would think even my personal Instagram, Alea on Adventure is the name. Okay. And but even in my bio there, it's connected to my business account as well. So they could find that. And I would love to just share if they're trying to grow their business and they're in that launch phase or they are looking for fractional marketing manager, smarketingmachine.com is where you can learn all about that world for me.
That's awesome. And we'll have it all linked up as well at 502entrepreneurs.com. So you can see Alea's profile, find all her links there as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Alea, thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the conversation.
Me too.
Awesome.
Thanks.